who lives here in Las Vegas and works with public school students who, in this crowd, I have to say, almost all of them don't know what a Gemara is. Almost all, because a few of the ones that do know what a Gemara is and learn Gemara almost daily are here together with us. And you'll hear from one of them later this evening. But it's interesting for me to understand that the OU, the Orthodox Union, who supports all the incredible work that I'm able to do in Las Vegas, also runs programs like All Daf, All Mishnah, and things for people like us. I mean, I think we hit a world record this evening. I'm pretty sure this is the most Chavetz Chaim rabbis that ever came to Daf Yomi Siyum in the history of the world. So if that wasn't enough for the OU,
it's not being recorded, right?
This is not live, but trust me, it will be online. So it's incredible to see that the breadth of the work that the OU does goes completely across the spectrum. I was very recently introduced by complete Hashgacha Pratis to Rabbi Shved, who's here with us this evening, who runs All Daf, literally started this and took the world by storm. And obviously, you know, we give all the credit to Rabbi Shved, but for sure, COVID definitely helped. And All Daf was an unbelievable utility for people who needed to learn the Daf and to continue learning. And it was a complete coincidence that I was able to meet him. My brother does something called tefillah with Rabbi Victor Miller. He translates his Sfarim and he puts out a tefillah every single day. So I was thinking we could do all tefillah. So I wanted to get in touch with the people that do it. So I sent a WhatsApp, I poked around a little bit because I have connections in the OU. So I met Rabbi Shved, and then the next thing I know, they were planning a Siyum in Las Vegas for Moed Katan, which was only in 3.5 weeks. But Baruch Hashem, we're all here this evening, and I have a tremendous debt of gratitude, and I've grown to have tremendous kavod for Rabbi Shved, and I thank him for coming, and I'd like to ask him to come up and share a few.
So Rabbi Yehuda Marilis is very modest. He says he heard that All Daf was planning a Siyum in Las Vegas. Let's set the record straight. The Siyum tonight is all because of Rabbi Marilis, from concept to completion. So thank you very much. And it's true, it was totally by Hashgacha. He called me for some other, like he says, we still have to talk about his brother doing something for tefillah. But the Siyum is where we are tonight, and Rabbi Eliezer and I, together with Asher Tesser, flew in today, and we're actually flying back tonight. But we hope to be back. We've been here for a few hours, and we are just blown away by everything we've seen so far. We visited the shul and the day school. It's tremendous. So, on behalf of the OU, Rabbi Moshe Hauer, Executive Vice President, Mr. Moshe Bain, President, I'd like to thank the Las Vegas community for hosting the All Daf Siyum this evening. And a special thank you to Rabbi Marilis again, putting this all together literally from beginning to end, even though he was on the slopes yesterday, the day before, but he made it back in time. A special thank you to Rabbi Moshe Elephant for taking the time and flying in, also in and out, and Mirz Hashem. We look forward to being able to be here for a longer period of time, but it's beautiful and very special to be able to spend the night here with this beautiful crowd. I'd like to share a tshuva. Before I share the tshuva, I want to mention, it's very important, the All Daf platform has been dedicated by a very special person who wishes to remain anonymous, in memory of Mayor Ben Chaim Wakmin, who's a special man who actually unfortunately passed away during COVID-19. But he was a special person, a family man, community person in Casablanca, Morocco, Yehei Baruch. And the global Siyum, usually we have this live stream, but we're on the West Coast, so we'll have to film it and put it online hopefully soon. Has been generously sponsored by Mr. Josh Goldberg and family in memory of his brother Elliot, Yitzchak Isaac ben Eliezer, who was someone who was sick his entire life, was in the hospital many times, but constantly was fighting and lived till the age of 47. And Josh has shared with me that the doctor's diagnosis was that he was supposed to pass away at 5 years old. So I always take that as inspiration for Daf Yomi learners. It's a constant battle, it's a fight, and something that at the end, the reward is great, it's tremendous. And the local Siyum tonight in Las Vegas has been dedicated in memory of Yeshua ben Tzvi HaKohen. So I'd like to share a tshuva for Meir Shapiro, who was the miyased of the Daf Yomi that we know, way back in Poland in 1923, I believe. And he was sent the following question. And he was sent this question from a community in Berlin, Germany. And they wanted to know, when you get to a daf like today's daf, for those who learn Daf Yomi, is a quarter of the page, literally. And these people wanted to know, we took upon ourselves to learn one daf every single day. Perhaps we were makabel, we took upon ourselves a neder to learn one daf every day. Does this count? When I saw the tshuva, I was amazed. These are Jews in Germany, and this is what they're concerned about. Holy Jews, did we complete what we took upon ourselves? So he assures them it's okay, and he brings riots from different Gemaras and Shas that a daf could be even not a complete daf. But the language that he expresses to them, he says, "Nichtavam higiani v'samachti lo hidia lehivoda." I'm so excited that it came to my attention. Kigam b'chug hacharedim be'eretz Ashkenaz motza hachlotas haknesiya gedola chen b'libaisam. He proposed to learn Daf Yomi by a Knesiya Gedola. There was a gathering of all the big Rabbanim of that time in Poland. And he said, I'm so happy to hear that even in faraway Germany, they took upon themselves to learn Daf Yomi. The Tesili ba'alma da'asu, ki zochisi liya is bein mezaki harabim. He says, I thank Hashem that I'm able to be from those that are mezaki the rabbim to learn Daf Yomi. And Rabbi Elephant and I, we have this feeling that although we live in New York, and we really have all our content online. So what are we coming to the Las Vegas community to share the simcha? So my feeling usually is that ultimately the goal and the idea is to be able to learn the way we got the Torah from Har Sinai to Moshe Rabbeinu when he taught it to Yeshua and he taught it to Klal Yisrael, is to learn with a chevra, with a chabura, with your Rebbe, with your friends. All daf is made as a tool. Whether you're listening to the shir on the treadmill, you're in the car, there's so many opportunities today. People don't have access to be able to go to a shir all the time. But to be able to have the availability to learn, whether it's a chazara with our Daf HaChaim program, whether it's listening to a Jewish history soundbite with Dr. Henry Abramson, fascinating. Every day he provides a tidbit on the daf, whether it's about an Amora or a Tana, or about a city, or about some kind of object that's mentioned in the daf. All kinds of different shiurim that are available for a person, even if they're not learning Daf Yomi, but to be connected to that Daf Yomi, the world Daf Yomi experience, is something that we feel we're a part of. But of course, the ultimate joy is sitting down with the Rabbanim. We have, I know of 2 Rabbanim here in Las Vegas who are Magidei Shir in the 2 different communities. So it's just the fact that we're able to come here and celebrate with them is something amazing and exciting for us. Thank you, Rabbi Marilis, again. I just wanted to share one vart. So I was talking to Rabbi Marilis, and he says, if you come to Las Vegas and talk about Torah flowering in the desert, you turn the crowd off. That's what everyone talks about. But I know there's a famous question that's asked. Why was the Torah given in Har Sinai? Har Sinai, they were in the desert. It wasn't the most comfortable situation. They didn't really have food to eat. They didn't have clothing. Of course, there were all the nisim of the man, and Hashem made that their clothing should grow with them. But wouldn't it have been even more spectacular, more comfortable for the Torah to have been given when they came to Eretz Yisrael. They were comfortable, they were settled. Why did it have to be given in the Midbar, in the desert, in Har Sinai? Especially we know that there are 48 kinyanim, 48 ways that a person could acquire Torah. And some of them, many of them, talk about how a person has to be besimcha, he has to be happy, he has to be b'yishuv, he has to be calm. So why was it that Hashem decided the place to give the Torah is going to be in the Midbar, in the desert? And there's a lot to talk about to answer this question, but I'm not the one who flew out here to speak. Rabbi Elephant is the one who came out to speak, so I'll make it very brief. But the answer is that if we look at menucha, tranquility, in the eyes of with material eyes, then we have to be comfortable in a materialistic way. Everything has to be perfect. We have to make sure we have our parnasa is okay, and our houses are okay, and our cars are okay, and everything's okay. But if we look at it in a way, with different eyeglasses, that what we need is to be close to Hashem and to be able to learn Torah, and it doesn't have to be that our life, our materialistic life is perfect, our gashmias is perfect, then that's the way we really could grow in Torah. And that's what Hashem was teaching us. Rabbi Yerucham Lubavitz in Parshas Vayechi, he was the famous mashkiach of the Mir Yeshiva. He talks about the soldier who's out in the battlefield. Not the perfect situation for a person to be comfortable, with bullets flying and everything else that goes on in the battlefield. But the soldier has to be calm. He has to have menuchas hanefesh. He has to feel at peace with himself. And that's the way he's able to be. That's the way he's able to win the war. They're able to win the war. The armies, even if everything around them is crazy, but they're calm. That's the way they can win the war. And that's what he says. That's the way a person has to grow in Torah. Everything else around them, the world around them, could be what's going on in their lives. Doesn't have to be in the materialistic world settled. But the way to be able to acquire Torah is if we focus on our goals. And with that, we have our menucha. And that was the lesson of giving the Torah in the Midbar. We're in the Midbar. We don't have everything we need. But we're going to get the Torah, and that's what we're going to focus on. Avodas Hashem, and be able to do mitzvahs and chesed and everything else. And we're able to withstand that. He actually, Rabbi Yerucham Lubavitz, brings a mashal, which I want to share a story, because that mashal really talks to me on a personal level. He talks about a chassan who's getting married. And if you think about a chassan, the day of his chasana, he wants really everything to work out to the best. And just imagine if there's a scratch on his shoe or something else, maybe his tie isn't the perfect tie, or his suit didn't come out the way he liked it to be, how much it could weigh on his mind and bother him the day of his chasana. But that's not the way it's supposed to be. I have a grandfather, may he be well, who's well into his 90s, a Holocaust survivor. And I remember myself the day of my wedding, my own wedding. So the minhag is to put on a white kittel at the wedding, and I was getting ready to go down to the chuppah, and I had the white kittel, I put it on, and there was someone else in the room who brought a plate of sesame chicken into the room. and for some reason, the kittel made contact with the sesame chicken on the sleeve. Here I am, like, oh no, I'm going down to the chuppah with a white kittel with a sesame chicken stain. My grandfather is a Holocaust survivor who went through it all, lost his whole family. He calmly walks over to me and rolls up the sleeve 2 or 3 times, and there's no more sesame chicken stain. That's somebody who focuses on what's important. The world doesn't have to be perfect. He could have lost his whole family and struggled to build a new family in America. But he's focused on what's important. You're a chassan, you're going to have to your chuppah, we're going to make it work. And everything's going to be fine. I want to end off with the bracha that Meir Shapiro in that tshuva gave to the people that wrote that tshuva. He said, "L'chu hala l'kachachem." Continue on with your strength. L'kvaya shiurim kisidra midei yom v'yomai. Have shiurim, daily shiurim. He was talking about daf yomi. But anything a person can learn, any kfi situm l'Torah, in any way, whether it's the daf, whether it's the Mishnah, whether it's Parsha, any way a person can have a daily connection to Torah. That's the most important thing. He says your chelik should be within the line of daf hayomi. Baruch Hu. It's important. It's an important work for HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So again, I thank everybody for coming tonight. It's heartwarming to see everybody out here, and everyone should have continued bracha and atzlacha and everything, and we'll continue with the program. Thank you.
Before I get to the fun stuff, I want to first, a couple thank yous. I want to obviously thank our Marylis for putting this together. This was not expected. This is actually a lot nicer than I expected it to be, but I shouldn't have doubted you. And of course, thank you to the OU and Aldaf. Although I don't use it regularly, I do lean on it as a crutch occasionally, especially when I'm traveling, which happens quite often. Just because I am Chafetz Chaim, I do have to point out that I would love to have an Al Musar. So, You're
not the first person to ask tonight.
Well, there you go. This is Chafetz Chaim for you. You can throw some Daf Yomi into us, but you can't take out the Musar. I have to give a Karas Tov and Yasher Koach to the guys in my Shir. We have a pretty unique group and a pretty incredible group. We do things a little bit differently with our Shir. We, first of all, we do it at night, which from what I understand is somewhat uncommon in the Daf Yomi world. As well as I'm often traveling. And so either I'll have to skip the Shir, or it'll be a very random time because of the time zone. I'll shoot out a quick text to all the guys, say, hey, you guys available now for a quick Daf Yomi? Most of the guys will somehow figure out how to get on Zoom, and we'll get the Shir done. So it's really pretty amazing to see that. The dedication from the guys in the group is inspiring for me. On a very personal note, I haven't really shared this with anyone before, but before the daf started, I was actually going through a pretty tough place, stressful place professionally. Besides for being in the kollel here, I also work, I own a company and I work in the afternoon, and I was going through a bit of a tough time. It was really right when the new cycle was starting in the Daf Yomi. And a bunch of the guys were pushing me to do the daf. It was another hechloch for me to learn. I said, why not? Let's do it. We'll get it started. There's no long-term commitments. We'll do one masechta at a time. I'm not promising you anything. And of course, you don't really know where things come from, especially if you did. I think it was yesterday's daf. Especially when it comes to parnasa, it's a machlokes, whether it's mazel or it's chosim, and bottom line is most Rishonim say it's the two combined on some level. But I will say that within a month of starting the Shir, things really turned around for me professionally, and Baruch Hashem, I've seen a lot of bracha since then. So again, you never know what causes things, but if anyone's been on the fence, or obviously anyone who's here is already committed somewhat to the daf, I will say that it's for me it's changed me tremendously. So thank you for the guys in the Shir for that hechrach. All right, so I'm going to do the last couple lines here of the daf at the end of Moed Katan. So Amar Rav Chia Barashi Amar Rav Chia Bashi said the name of Rav. Talmidei Chachamim ein lהם menucha afilu olam haba. Talmidei Chachamim have no menucha, they have no rest, even in the world to come. Rashi explains that this is actually a good thing. It's not what you think. It's not like they're stressed out, which is typically what we assume a lack of menucha is. Actually, it's the fact that they're learning in olam haba, which to them is a melus that is a positive. It's not a stressful amelus. So Talmidei Chachamim, even olam haba, are able to learn nonstop. Shenemar yechu michayil el chayil yira el elogim b'tzion, that they will go from chayil el chayil. They will see Hashem in Zion. They will see the face of Hashem in Zion in Shemayim. Essentially saying that Talmidei Chachamim will continue learning and growing and getting closer to Hashem, even in Shemayim. Hadron Allah ve'ila megalchim v'salikula meseches Moed Katan.
So thank you, Rabbi Meros, for organizing this. Thank you to all of us for coming. I know your shir, various members of my family are Rabbi Elephant are very into your shir, so I'm all over the world, so it's a real bliss to have you here. So I just wanted to say briefly, actually, that it's actually ironic. My wife pointed out on the way here. She said we also in Henderson we do the shir after Mar at 8:45 every night, and it's ironic because since we moved here, we've always wanted, my wife and I, have wanted to go out for dinner at night. But because of the Daf Yomi share, we actually have had a lot of difficulty, like coming to dinner at night. And literally, like, we had to go to a restaurant, like somewhere down the road. Like they stayed open for us till 9:30, right? But so we actually wanted to come to this very restaurant, but we couldn't because of Daf Yomi. So the irony is that, and I appreciate Rabbi Mills for organizing this, that we actually get to do the Siyum here, so now we get to bring this out here for you. So thank you so much for that. We do the share here as well. That's what we'll do from now on, actually. People have to get decent as well. We'll have to make
Sponsored by Alba.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for that. So, without further ado, and yeah, I would like to also thank, we actually, my wife and I and my family moved here about 6 months ago. And I came and I visited and I said, oh, where's the Daf Yomi share? And they said, oh, there's actually no Daf Yomi share. I said, okay, well, when I come, we're going to do that. And so, to the Henderson community's credit, I literally came in August, and we came during Elul, and it's not shy to really start then, but we started right after Elul. I believe we're still at the end of Pizza. We actually started a little bit during Elul. During Yom Kippur we started, right? Pizza we started. Yeah. So a lot of credit to the Henderson community and Shikol, for everyone coming out. Thank you so much. So, without further ado, here we go. We shall return to you. Hadra Allah Maset Moed Katan Hadra Halan, Daita Allah Maset Moed Katan Daita Halan. Lo Lista Shem Nah Maset Moed Katan, Lo Tista Shem Nan. Lo Ba'ama Hadim, Lo Ba'ama De Asi. You some Nahan Alhid, Lo Heo Sedu. Should hate to Rasad Masedu, Lo Hazed, Sehim Manu, Lo Haba. Khalina Bar Papa, Rami Bar Papa, Nachman Bar Papa, Achai Bar Papa, Abba Mari Bar Papa, Rafram Bar Papa, Rakish Bar Papa, Surcha Bar Papa, Adar Bar Papa, Dara Bar Papa. Everybody here is to bring to start the Hinu. You also call this Israel, yeah, and after this is in on top. This is Israel, Fulani, or Risha Machal, this or Seven Shema. No, I base this on Sichat Minus, or Sehat, Filolam, He, Samin, the Kettle, the Ram, the Losh, the Ram, the Eshkaf, Deva, Kivam, Sani, Ruth, Ata, Adonai, Ladim, Kukafa, Amen, 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 Salabah. When you are not the rock, now he was the head of Sinu. Santa, I'll give you the Risa Medrash. Lo Sata the Hidden Yoshik Kimanos. Shana Mashkin, the Himashkin. Ana Mashkin, the Soda Himashkin, the Divar Tatum. Ana Hidden Himamin. Ana Hidden the Kabbali Spark. Himamin the Iman Kabbali Spark. Ana Rasim Himasim. Ana Rasim the Kainal on the Bob. Himrasim the Ver Shachas. Shinamar, Atao Him. Toward the end of the Air Shachas. Amshi Damim. Nirmal Logia Hitsum. Yemeam Adi F Tafba. Here's a Manacha Nalhinu. Elohai. Kashim Shazatani. The Sayam Asset Moed Katan. King Tasbini, Haskell, Satos, Aspiring, King, the Simon, the Wood, Lamni, the Shmul, Asos, and Time, as Kodri, some to Rasafa, the Ava, with the Kuskoa Tanai, or Morai, some Dave Afani, Yamodim, Zari, Shalom Tamush, Hatora, Zari, the Zera Zari, Adolam, Siskayen, Tanafa, Osa, Shopatha, Tishmar, Lava, like Sosa, he, Sishitava, Kibi, Yeru, Yamaha, Yosuki, the Fashion, Osapanim, or if you not, is the Mola Ocean, the Lord, and I owe the Mogitan, and I Barray, and Mola Shalom.
This morning, as I left my shoe, I said goodbye to my community, such Jewish community, but as I said goodbye to them, so there were two parts of the conversation. One was, so should we make a collection, and when you get off the plane, you'll do some gambling, and divide the profit. So it's too difficult, so we have to figure out the money that we're going to earn, how to divide. So let's think. And then, the people in the shul told me, you know the rule is, what happens in Vegas, stays in Vegas. And I have to tell you, right now, after spending half a day or whatever here in Vegas, I completely disagree. Because what happens in Vegas should be taught to the whole world. Get this what I do in this town today, whether when I was in the day school, whether it was when we were at school for Milton Myers, whether I was in the Beis Medrash or in the Masifta on the way here. This is what Klal Yisrael is all about. And this is a secret that should not be kept as a secret. Ladies and gentlemen, every single person in this room, you know, Rabbi Morales, who I got to know today, is praising me. I don't deserve it. But every person in this room, you are the stars of Klal Yisrael. That you come to a place, not like we live, you know, we from Brooklyn think that that's the only place where there's Yiddishkeit. We'll maybe say Yerushalayim as well. But here in Las Vegas, what you are accomplishing, I am in awe of you. And you are the Gibborei Kaya. You are the heroes of Klal Yisrael. And you are the people that what happens in Vegas should be taught to every Jew in Klal Yisrael. When Wiesenfeld, I have to comment on something you said, spoke about wanting to be able to take night off, to be able to go out with your wife, and not, that Yogi Meir Shapiro is a very tough boss, he doesn't give us any vacation. So I, once, a number of years ago, was at a conference of my Yiddish Yur. And I was studying my Yiddish Yur, and one of the speakers got up and exactly said what you said. He said, it's important to this to learn the daf every day. And the Magid Yeshua, you, Rabbi Rubinstein, devote kindness, devote energy and time. He says, this speaker got up and said, I recommend that every once in a while, you should take a night off, take a day off, and go out with your wife. The next speaker who got up, I've been giving it that flight this year for over 30 years, over 32 years actually, every morning at 5:30 a.m. And this Maggid Shir also, the Maggid Shir Flavish, who has been giving it that flight Shir for decades, 5:30 in the morning. And he told this other speaker, you know, I thought of your idea, and I told my wife one day, I'm going to take off tomorrow, and we're going to go out. I'm not going to give the shit tomorrow. And she said, you know what, go give the shit. We just finished learning toward the end of the second Katan. The Gemara includes Talmidei Chachamim, Eglam and Nuchal. Talmidei Chacham don't have any rest. Loi Baruch Hazeh, Loi Kabo. Talmidei Chacham don't have any rest. And it's a very difficult Gemara to understand. Don't Talmidei Chacham deserve a rest? And actually, as I said when I spoke in the shul a little earlier, this morning, I'm a little behind in my year, growing up in the Siyum Sunday morning, Bible. And the Gemara speaks about Rav Ashi, fascinating Gemara, asked the potential speakers at his funeral, what are you going to say about it? The Gemara says that one of the speakers said, the people who are left in the world should be sad, but not for the person who leaves the world. He's going to a place where he will rest. So I don't understand. Here the Gemara says that Talmidei Chacham after leaving the world don't have rest. And here the Gemara says that they will have rest. How do we reconcile these Gemaras? Many years ago, I tell the people in my shul, this is one of my favorite debate titles. Every Shabbos, we have a Shemona Esrei. And the shortest Shemona Esrei of the whole week is on Shabbos. And I never understood that. Shabbos is the time, I know, you guys aren't in New York. We in New York, we're always on the run. So during the week, who has time to daven a long Shemona Esrei? During the week, the Shemona Esrei we daven 3 times a day is a long Shemona Esrei. Shabbos, we have more time. Yet the Shemona Esrei of Shabbos is the shortest Shemona Esrei of the week. Doesn't make any sense. Shabbos, we should have a long Shemona Esrei. We have time to daven and concentrate. And during the week, we should have a shorter version. Why is it just the opposite? So I once heard from a parent couple in South. He says there are 3 words in the Shemona Esrei of Shabbos that you can't say during the week. They don't work. But those 3 words encompass everything that we're all asking for and hoping for in life. On the Shabbos of Shemona Esrei, we say, Ritzeino b'menucha seinu. We ask God for menucha. And when a person has menucha, when a person has rest, he doesn't have the headaches, he doesn't have the worries, he doesn't have the concerns. That is the biggest bracha that somebody can have. All week long, in the hectic life, in the hustle and bustle of the life that we live in, we can't daven for menucha. On Shabbos, we can say the same menucha. And when a person has the schus, when a person is able to have menucha, then everything else falls into place. And perhaps that's what the Gemara means to say. Talmidei Chachamim ein lahem menucha. The menucha that a person can have, ein lahem b'olam hazeh. In this world, we can't really come to menucha. The Bible have it, and not in let them have a idol. Why not? Because we know that what is the difference between a person when he is alive versus a person when he's no longer alive. You know, all of us who learn the second line Katan, very beautiful. The second is beautiful. But I think we're all anxious to finish the second. Thinking about death every day, you want to get on. But what is the lesson of the second line Katan? And what does the second teach us? That when a person is in this world, he's a highluk. He can keep on growing. He can keep on accomplishing. After he leaves the world, he's an island. He can't accomplish anything anymore. But Rabbi said, if a person does the right thing while he's in this world, and now he's no longer in this world, unfortunately. But what he accomplished in this world, he can continue to accomplish even after he's in this world. Ein lahem menucha doesn't mean that they're still working and they still have to get up early every morning and they still have to deal with their tough boss. That doesn't happen after you leave the world. But the roots that these people lay down in this world remain forever. And I have to tell you, with respect to the Magid Shur, I'm also a Magid Shur, so I'm speaking to myself. I've been learning the Daf Yomi for over 30 years with people, all types of people, all circles. We have to speak about the All Daf program, which has touched thousands and thousands of people all around the world. One day, Rabbi Schweig sent me a report of where we got calls to come into the All Daf. It was over 120 countries around the world. You know what that means? That there were countries around the world that spend time every day learning Torah. So as much as I spend time every day learning Torah, which is so fantastic and so great, you know what else it accomplished? The families of every one of those people are different families. A family, a wife who sees her husband come home from a hard day work, and gets up and goes to learn. A child who sees that every morning when he gets up to go to school, his father is not home. Where is he? He's learning the daf. A family who sees that when they're driving in the car to go anywhere, instead of listening to Narishkeit, instead of wasting their time, to have the daf yomi on in the car. Ladies and gentlemen, those families are different families. Those children are different children. And the daf yomi that you learn in the morning or in the evening or whenever you have a moment, don't think it's only because you're learning and you're doing the mitzvah. You are. But you are having a profound influence on your family. You are having a profound influence on your friends, on your community, and all of Klal Yisrael. Those are the individuals who ein lahem menucha. You know why? Because even after the person is no longer in the world, or even Baruch Hashem, you still are in the world. And every one of us hope and pray that our children should get married and begin their own families. The child of a father and a mother who grow up in a home that sees that that's the devotion and that's what's important, that every day I'm going to learn. That child's family is a different family. And that child will be a different father to his children, and will be a different husband to his wife, and will be a different member of his community. And that's why you don't have a menucha, because you're constantly growing because what you have accomplished. The unsung heroes of the daf yomi are not the Magid Shurim, with all due respect. We get pleasure from giving a shir. It's geschmack. The heroes are the people who learn every day. The heroes are people who have changed their lives and their families' lives. And those are the people, ein lahem menucha. And those are the people, as we finish Masechta Moed Katan, we begin Masechta Chagiga. And what is the lesson of Masechta Chagiga? It speaks about going up to the Beis HaMikdash by the Yom Tovim. There's a tremendous connection between the end of Masechta Moed Katan and the beginning of Masechta Chagiga. The Gemara is saying if you are the individual that learn every day, that you don't have a menucha, you don't take a day off, that you constantly influence the world, you will be the individual that will be zeichen to be oil l'rego. You will be the star in the Beis HaMikdash, which will be rebuilt b'mheira b'yameinu, which will be rebuilt, and the shuls and the yeshivas of Las Vegas will be in Yerushalayim Habnuya. And the people who will be learning there are the people who are learning here. This week's parasha is for Akta Tetzaveh. And the Daf Sofer asks a question. The Torah begins many times, parasha is saying, Tzav, command Klal Yisrael. What is the word for Akta Tetzaveh? So he quotes a medrash in Parshas Vayelech. The medrash says in Parshas Vayelech, Ein v'yelech Moshe walked, Ein v'yelech el Moshe teichacha. Walking is a teichacha. Walking is teaching. We heard about Chofetz Chaim and Mussar. So the medrash says the v'yelech, Ein v'yelech Moshe Rabbeinu's walking is Mussar. Where's the Mussar? Where's the rebuke? And while Moshe Rabbeinu walked the street, where's the speech? Says the Daf Sofer, when somebody observed Moshe Rabbeinu walking, when somebody observed the way Moshe Rabbeinu lived his life, when somebody observed the way Moshe Rabbeinu interacted with other people, that was the greatest lesson. Great lessons are not learned through speeches. Great lessons are learned through personal examples. Says the pasuk, "Ve'ato," you, people looking at you, tetzava. You don't need to say anything. They just have to watch you. And when they watch you, that will be an example on how they should live. The people who learn the Daf Yomi don't have to give speeches to their families and to others. The Atom, they are the people who are Tetzava, that are obligating every one of us. How do we live? To re-examine who are we. And that's why the pasuk continues. The pasuk says that they should take shemen zayazah. They should take pure oil, lahalois ner tamid, to use for the menorah. And Rashi quotes the Gemara. Rashi says that the oil that was used to light the menorah had to be absolutely pure. But the oil that was used to bring the carbon did not have to be pure. Such a difficult Rashi. You know, I work in the food business. So people who need olive oil for lighting, you don't have to use such great olive oil. As long as it lights, it's good. When you're using olive oil for a recipe, then you want to use a quality olive oil. But the halacha is just the opposite. The halacha is for the carbon which you're going to eat. We don't care if it's quality. The oil that's going to be used for lighting the menorah, what's the difference? That has to be absolutely pure. The halacha is only the first drop of oil that comes out of the olive may be used, nothing else. Why? Wouldn't it make sense just the opposite? So Rav Moshe Feinstein says, the oil that was used to light the menorah represents the Or Torah. Menorah represents Torah, Torah Or. When it comes to Torah, we have to use the purest, best olive oil that there is. You know why? Because the pasuk says, Yaruch Oisai Aaron Abanav. That's the oil that Aaron is going to light, which will serve as the example and the model for his children. And if you want to light menorah, if you want to have oil that will influence your family properly, then it has to be pure. For eating, that's not what we're here for. So any oil will do. If we want to serve as an example for our families, if we want to serve as an example for other people, that oil has to be pure. Our lives have to be examples and models for others. Says the Sfaselis, that whenever the Torah uses the word sav, it means miyad u'ledoyos, for now and forever. The acta tetzava, if you want to be zoycha, and who doesn't want? Isn't that what we're here for? That we should be able to have generations, children and grandchildren, who will be Yirei Hashem, who will be learning the Torah, who will be citizens, and in the world that we will be proud of, that will be making a Kiddush Hashem in their lives. The Ato Tetzava. Ato, you be the example. If you will be the example, if you will live a life that is an example to others, then you will be Zoicha to Miyad U'Ladoyos. You will be Zoicha to have generations who are worthy to be the generation that will go together with all of us in greeting Mashiach Tzidkenu, the Meher of Yamin. My Rabbi Sai, again, I thank you. I don't deserve a thanks. I thank you. I thank those who listen to the shir, not just to my shir, to any shir, not just how old I. Just please, I make an appeal to you, not for money. I make an appeal. When you do something, think about how will this influence my family? How will this influence my community? And b'schus that you will live your lives that way. You'll be zoicha, yadu l'doyros, us together with our children. Hopefully, Rabbi Suede and I will have discussed to go together with our new friends from Las Vegas to greet the TK. We should have discussed to be able to be together with you in Yerushalayim.
My name was Yehuda off tonight, so I may as well be off tonight.
What the name was a prayer.
All tefillah coming soon. So, believe it or not, when we were thinking about this Siyum, of course, my mind directly went to NCSY and what we could do and how we could get NCSY involved in this Siyum. And I was thinking maybe we could do Mishnayos by Katan with NCSY guys. They learn together. And then I was thinking a different angle, and maybe they could do a daf, maybe. And then I realized that Baruch Hashem, Moshe Borvik here in Las Vegas has these guys learning so much that to try to add to their learning is just going to be too much. And then I thought, you know something? We have a Jewish leader of Klal Yisrael in our midst in Las Vegas that's with us here tonight, but I wanted to be able to share a few words. But before I do, I just wanted to explain who he is. He came out of nowhere. Most NCSYer I know like his little brother. This guy's little brother, I know him in 8th grade, then 9th grade, and then they grow up in Baruch Hashem, Katan Hara. But very rarely, like, out of nowhere in 11th grade, somebody shows up. And just to give you a little NCSY structure, we'll take 60 seconds just to explain to you what it means. In every chapter, there's about 100 cities that have NCSY. In every chapter, there's a teenage board, which is about 10 teens, 10 students, and then there's one president of that board. And then what they do is in each region, there's 10 regions that have those 10 chapters. The West Coast is a region, we have about 10 chapters. So there's 10 teenage presidents.
Chapter of the year.
On the Las Vegas chapter of the year this year. So in every 10 chapters, there's 10 presidents. Those people form a regional board. That's very cautious. That's the regional board. All the top leaders from the region. But then there's 10 regions. So the 10 regional board presidents, right, from all over the country, form what's called a national board. Now that national board is the 10 leaders of Jewish students in Klal Yisrael that are picked from about 25,000 Jewish students around the world. And of those 10 national board students, there's one national board president who happens to be in this room this evening. And I'd like to call out Dan Malka to say a few words.
That was a long introduction. Probably the longest one I've gotten so far. I don't think in terms of speakers, I think I'm probably not the most qualified, but regardless. I do not, as I said, have the most extensive history in NCSY and Yiddishkeit in general. And especially in Gemara, I didn't know what a Gemara was until actually this past summer. When I went on NCSY Kollel, which actually changed my life. I didn't understand what it was. If you put it in front of me, I probably wouldn't have told you what it was. And with NCSY Kollel, I not only learned what it was, the importance of it, and it propelled me forward into learning with the Fabuta that was actually set up by NCSY Kollel. I'm learning Thomas. And locally with the local Kollel, which is amazing, I'm learning with Rabbi Met, the Baba Metzia. And even though I'm not doing Daf Yomi yet, seeing everyone here, and especially after actually getting to see all Daf, I went through it a little bit. It's kind of like a Hawaii Torah app, the Gemara. It inspired me, I think, that it's trying eventually with Hashem to do Daf Yomi. That's Hashem. So. I want to say thank you to Rabbi Melis, of course, for setting this up. To Rabbi Elephant and Sweet for coming from Brooklyn, right? From New Jersey or all over the country. Thank you. And for everyone that does Daf Yomi, I think Rabbi Elson made it very clear how much important it is, and I think for myself, I've learned so much, even outside of the world of Judaism, just the critical thinking aspect that it takes to learn Gemara. I'm going to apply to every aspect of my life. So thank you for helping me get to the point I was through NCSY and what OU does. Thanks so much.